Hi, how are you doing today? Uh, my name is Paul. I have been reading tarot cards, and this is kind of funny. Um, this card just dropped out while I was actually flipping through it, and I happen to be a Cancer. Um, and so I'm gonna set that apart. But a lot of people actually find that tarot cards are a joke and they're really ridiculous, and that they couldn't actually possibly um, perceive anything of what a human mind is. Um, but I actually have psychic abilities that, like, I knew something was happening in Baghdad. Um, I woke up and I said, first thing I said was like, "What the hell is what is going down in Baghdad?" And they didn't even actually report it onto the news until around 12 o'clock Pacific time. And I was like, that's pretty interesting. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually teach you a little bit about what you want to learn within your own tarot deck and how it actually can help you spiritually, and not just be and it can help you grow as a human being and the mindset that you actually want. So um, let me go ahead and I just find that funny. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually set the Chariot as center card. 1 second. Yeah, I'm just going to set that down as the center card, and um, I'm going to actually work off of that. What I normally do is I actually set it up into like a star format. Um, Basically, what I mean by that is pentacle, and um, if you're into numerology or anything like that, the top of the pentacle is going to be soul. The left of the pentacle is going to be earth. Below it is going to be fire. To the right of fire is water. And to the north of that is wind. A lot of magicians and basically a lot of people who practice in witchcraft and Wicca believe it's air. Um, but in all reality, it's not. It is actually wind because, first and foremost, even if you have a sealed room and a sealed door, um, where there's just possibly no flow of air at all, and you open it up, there's still dust that's actually particling, or a portion of particles are still floating around after you unseal this is basically um, airproof uh, door. You can still see the particles of dust that is actually floating around, and it will always float around. Like I am a bunch of particles that are actually built here on Earth. Um, we really aren't here on Earth. We're actually just basically um, multiples of universes that are connected to ourselves. Um, it's kind of hard to actually explain, but um, there are positive and negative ions that always are, um, you know, interflowing, intermingling with our atoms. Atoms build up our DNA, and it's always flowing. And so what happens is there's always groups of those atoms that actually do flow within it. Um, okay, so let's go ahead and let's get this started. What I do is I normally shuffle it 5 times. I'll flip it the fourth, fifth time. And I have cut it into 4 different stacks. 2, 3, 4. And I take my left palm and no, 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 yes. That one, by my own instinct, said yes, if you actually choose whichever stack. And this is actually quite interesting because the Hierophant came up top, which means that I actually believe in God. I actually truly believe in heavens above earth, and I have a lot of different. I've read a lot of different books. I have a lot of different theories that I've actually heard, like through Buddhism. I read into Buddhism when I was 17. Read into paganism when I was, so I don't know. Started around 13. I would ditch high school or ditch middle school, then high school, go to the library or go to Barnes and Noble and just read up on it. So now the best way for you to actually start understanding your own tarot cards is you have to make either a layout for yourself and say which card goes with which point on a star or whatever it is that you want. If you want to make it a circle, make it a circle. Just what you would actually want to do. Pardon me. Is you want to make sure that you put it always in the exact same direction. Otherwise than that, you could actually sit here and make bad accusations or bad prophetic thoughts. Let me go ahead and what I'm going to tell you is this is actually dropped of exactly what I'm talking about right now tonight. First off, like I said, my soul is with the Hierophant. Basically, it is it's a God card, not necessarily. It would be like the Pope. Okay, think about it that way. Like Rabbi is teacher, and the same thing would be with the Hierophant. Merlin, all those other things that you've got going on. The power of conviction is that we have another major arcane, which is the Empress, which actually is a very, very powerful card. It handles a lot of moon and Venus energy, and so emotions that basically work with your emotions and the moon are there. It's one of those things, and that's my power of conviction. That's the way that I actually place it. And so, what's going on is depravity is the Two of Cups, which is which means that right now I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have anything that really is actually of any kind of financial wealth to me. But you know it or personal wealth to me. But you got to be happy with whatever it is that life gives to you. And the interest on this is the Three of Wands. Now, the Three of Wands is pure energy. It's the beginning of energy, actually. A lot of people actually think it's the one, but you have 3, 6, and 9. 6 is the balance, 9 is God. It is the God card on all these energies. Um, and 3 is the beginning of a base idea and understanding that you might have of energy that you'd want. And I will actually flip over my um, I'll flip over my iPad and I'll actually show it to you. That way you can actually see it. Um, and the answer is I have a Knight of Wands, which is energy. I have a lot of energy. And a lot of people actually know it. And I get a lot of people through my dreams that are trying to influence my energy and suck off my energy. You do get a lot of psychic vampires that are out there. And basically, the card that I put in the center of all of it, in the center of the pentacle, is going to be the Ace of Wands, which is just going to be the low form of energy which is computers, which is technology at this point in time. Because in all honesty, computers need us to actually work, as you should know. Other it, let's just go ahead and put it to you this way: the cars that they're saying are self-driving are not always perfect. Are not going to be perfect. If any of you are old enough to remember the blue screen of death from Microsoft, I want you to imagine that while you're taking a ride in a self-driving vehicle, okay? Sometimes they can, it's just like Boeing, they can have the blue screen of death while it's actually happening. So it's not perfect, and it will never be perfect, especially even if they created soldiers out of robots. They will never be perfect. There will be one robot that might kill another accidentally. It's just one of those things. We're not talking Star Wars here. We're talking about real life. They are actually trying to be where it is in actual. They want it to actually be where loss of little human life as possible, and to win the war. Is that correct? Yes. And what we have here, I have 3 cards over onto the left-hand side. Why? Like I said, it's basically the beginning of energy, and it is one of those things that you have to actually start looking at within numerology as like they actually sit here and say that 3 o'clock in the morning is the witching hour. It's actually the hour of energy that can be either neutral or positive. Okay? Because first and foremost, the positive energy that would come from a 3 o'clock in the morning, like a 3:33 in the morning, it can actually, if you decided that you wanted to do some kind of satanic ritual or something like that, that'll bring on bad, negative energy. I do not actually recommend any of that. I'm more of a white witch, so I look at it as this way. The situation is the twins, which is Gemini, and the lovers. And the problem is the star. And basically, that is one of the most important cards that you can actually have come up, because the star is pure energy and pure light that actually travels. It's like when when Everyone sits here and says, "Oh, space is just void. Space is nothing. No, there's nothing out in space." Wrong. There's gravity out in space. There's light out in space. There's vast amounts of things that we don't even know about or have any clue how to grab a hold of it. We live on a positive ionic sphere. Out there in space is a neutral ionic radiation, as you can kind of sit here and say, where the quarks aren't actually as energetic, plus also they don't carry the necessary portions of life, okay? And the solution is a Four of Wands, which means high energy, soul, power, and it's actually a really good card to actually have as for a solution. So that's really what I recommend. If you're having like serious problems, um, you want to get a Four of Cups, Four of Wands, the Four of Swords, and the Four of Pentacles, because all of that represents your soul. And honestly, I recommend doing this for anybody who's actually interested. Go get a numerology book, okay? And like I was sitting here saying before, how everything's wind, and wind is it's not just air, it's not just oxygen, it's not just one particle. A particle, it means basically it would be just sitting there and just stuck. Basically, it's talking about all sorts of energy that's going around us. Okay, and that's why the Chariot, which was, like I said, my birth sign, it came up as just like a flop out while I was sitting here shuffling the cards. Okay, and now here's actually going to be, I put two cards down onto the right. Okay, and the beginning is the universe, which means birth or a new life, and how life is actually created. It is always basically when you are conceived, the tree of life binds itself from the universe, and you always have that silver cord connected to you as a baby in your mother's womb. They'll sit here and they'll argue and argue and argue and argue, but you will always have that silver cord, and you're just waiting for your growth and your the energy that you actually get from being expelled into this world. And then right after that's the end, which is the Six of Cups, which means that this is actually a very good thing. It shows that love, purity, and happiness, no matter what, will actually come. And what I was really thinking of while I was actually doing this is, how is it that I can explain that I can actually do? First off, I can look at the time, like 1844. I just looked at the time on the actual clock recording. It was 1844 at that point in time. And it happens all the time. I can wake up 5 minutes, I'll be lying there for like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, whatever, whatnot. I pick up my phone, 8:22, 8:44, 8:33, whatever time. And it's always going to be basically something that is a portion of the universe that is connected to you and what you're going to go through within either this day or the next. So, like I was sitting here saying, the Six of Cups is actually a very good card to actually have. Really, these last two cards and these two cards over here, or these three cards over here, pardon me, are really important. Um, so because they equal five together, which is altogether the number of the soul. And I'll explain that for within like 5 minutes. Okay. Soul is the number of four. If you do numerology, remember there is absolutely no zero. There is always something that is, no matter what, there is always something that is. Okay? I understand exactly why we need to have zero because of mathematics, theorems, cash, all this other stuff, and why they actually came up with it. But in theorems, um, sometimes they actually are put towards more towards humans and where the humans are actually at in their own personal life, which is why the people from Constantinople, pardon me, came up with the entire numeral system. And so the Turks, of course, created the numeral system, and it's actually been used since then. And even the Chinese, Japanese, everybody basically uses that numeral system. So, I mean, a lot of people have actually sat there and argued with me. Oh, well, you have to have a zero. And I try not to argue with them because it's just one of those things. But I'll go ahead and I'll show you exactly what the cards are that I have put down on the deck. Okay. Alrighty then. Hold on. Let me move this up because you can't flip the damn thing over for whatever reason. I guess it's an old. See, there's the Chariot. On the three cards that I was talking about, Lovers, the Star, and the Four of Wands. And then we go with this. The Hierophant, Empress, the Two of Cups, the Three of Wands, the Knight of Wands, and the Ace of Wands. All three of those are actually binding. Because the Knight of Wands is number 13, and 1 plus 3 is 4, and 3 plus 1 is 4, so that's 8. So that means that there's a good balance between all three of those cards. And we have the Hierophant, which is 5, and the Empress, which is 3, and that's 8 for the major arcane. And for water, you have 2. So 16, 18, and that's 9. And like I said, 9 is the number of God. 9 is the universal number, as is such. And then we over here have the other two cards that I was actually talking about, which is the Six of Cups and the Universe. Now, let me go ahead and hold on. I'll finish this off by saying that the universe itself is always going to be. You always have something here behind you, no matter what. There's a ghost that's always behind you. And no, it's actually a spirit that basically is standing above you and is there to protect you. And my mom's card at the base, which is funny. So, I mean, what you want to do to start really understanding your cards, watch a movie. Like, let's just say if your favorite movie is, I don't know what to really say. Like, one of my favorite movies is The Infinity War, but I don't sit here and actually shuffle my cards through the Infinity War, but I recommend what you do is you keep shuffling your cards through the Infinity War or whatever movie that you actually choose to be your personal preference. Now, if you want to be a master of your cards instead of just doing one movie. Um, and has to be a movie that you've seen plenty and plenty and plenty of times, and you're gonna watch them plenty of times more. What you're gonna do is you're gonna be shuffling these cards, and you're gonna sit here and say, "Oh, that card actually just popped up the exact same time, that exact same second, the last time I watched it." Then you'll start actually understanding, um, like what your cards are really trying to tell you. Next time I actually will get on to this, I'm going to put on really how to work with the pendulum. And the pendulum is another form of divination that is very, very powerful for you. And actually, it can work in the way of tarot. But the one thing that what I'll do is I'll sit here and I'll show you how to use playing cards as well. But you're not going to actually have the suits. Okay, that's basically not what you want to actually put into it, because a lot of the suits will actually confuse you. And what I mean by the suits is the jacks, the queens, the kings, and the jokers. I use the joker. I use one joker to actually sit here and tell me stock, if I should choose stock. If it flops down at the top, then I say, okay, no, this isn't a good stock to actually either invest in or to put any options on. But in all honesty, this is a way for you to grow as a human being and to start understanding that you are not alone. And that's the truth. You never will be alone. And it's not somebody that's watching you. It's basically the God that you are. Like one day I was sitting here, I thought, I am with the force of forces with me, and guess what was on? It was Rogue One. If you knew that Chinese guy that was on that movie, it was, I was like, wow, that's interesting. So it just like, I saw it on, I was just like, okay, so God's telling me I actually want to watch that. But anyways, I'm going to let you go ahead, go, have fun. I know a lot of people don't like tarot cards and think that they're Satan's tools, but actually they're a tool to talk to you. They're not a tool to talk to Satan. They're a tool to talk to you and ask yourself any kind of question that you might need to have answered. So, have yourself a great night. You can reach me on at Thanos Timestone for Twitter. I'll basically answer any kind of questions that you want. But see ya.